I'm just going to be upfront about it. This is going to be a boring video talking about gardening in January, snow-covered New Hampshire. But if you are interested in gardening and you want to get your best harvest, pay attention, because now is the time where you should be planning and going through all this to get your best harvest later. Let's do this. Hello everybody. Welcome back to the homestead. I had some errands to do this morning. I dropped Emma off with Jackie's parents on the way. I had to go to a doctor's appointment. Got a haircut.
I look real good today. I look real good today.
So I did all that stuff. Emma's still over there. Jackie and I are gonna go pick her up in a little bit. I also wanna say a big hello to a whole bunch of new subscribers that we have that came from our story on New Hampshire Chronicle. For those not familiar, New Hampshire Chronicle is a show that details kind of life, and it's not gonna be your typical news story where they're talking about, oh, the budget commission was approved.
Quarter projections indicate our sales will be down 40%. Why don't we go through the profit loss statement line by line from the past 6 quarters, which will offer...
It's not that. It's human interest stories. It's cool things that are going on in the state. And we were approached about a month and a half ago by one of the producers who wanted to do a story on our farm and how we've tied in this YouTube channel into that. It was really fun talking with them and getting to show them what we're all about and show the world what we're all about here on our really small farm in New Hampshire. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, it aired last night on local television. But if you didn't get a chance to watch it, I'll put a link in the video description down below to WMUR's website where you can actually stream it and check out the segment. So for all of you who came from there, thank you very much. We appreciate having you, and we hope you'll stick around. I wanted to take you out and I wanted to show you guys a little bit of what we're planning on doing this summer in the garden, because like it or not, it's January and we'll start sowing our first seeds outside probably around tail end of March. That's a little bit early. Our last frost here is usually around May 15th, and that's when it's pretty much regarded as safe to start putting stuff in the ground. But in the same token, we've always mentioned that we like to start some stuff a little bit early, just in case we don't have a really cold spring. We can get stuff going early, and that food becomes available much more quickly than if we waited until mid-May. The nice thing about it is it really only costs you seeds, and seeds aren't that expensive. So for the, maybe $10 or $15 of seeds that we put in the ground, if we get a hard frost and they all get killed off, it's not the end of the world because it wasn't a huge investment for us. So behind me, you can see our raised bed garden, and this is where we do the bulk of our fruit and vegetable growing. Mostly vegetable growing. There's a little bit of fruit in there with the strawberry patch. But this is where we do the most of our growing for the foods that we eat throughout the summer. And this soil quality was not that great when we moved in. Believe it or not, we actually have about 2 feet of dirt that we brought in to level this area out and raise it up a little bit. When we first moved in, it was sunken in and the dirt was really kind of spent. There was a garden here, but it wasn't producing the first year we tried to plant anything. So we brought in a bunch of fill, leveled it out, and then put these raised beds here so that we could control what dirt was going into it, and we knew that soil was going to produce for us. I built all these raised beds ourselves. They're super cheap and inexpensive to build. I have a video which I'll link up in the corner. Each of these raised beds can be built for less than $30 a piece, which when you compare it to a lot of the prefab stuff out on the market and things like that, it's much cheaper. They're using untreated lumber, so we're not going to have any chemicals from pressure treated leaching out. I know they say pressure treated is safe these days, but for the price difference that you would see, I can get 2 or 3 years out of this and not worry about it. We're actually going on our 3rd year right now, and they're all still super solid. So, knock on wood, we're going to keep them for as long as we can. But when I do need to replace them, it's as simple as going out and getting some 2x6s from the hardware or lumber supply area. We try to rotate our crops within these beds as best we can. We do add compost every spring. We do a wood chip mulching method, which does add nutrients back to the soil, which is nice. But you don't want to have the same things planted year after year after year, because eventually you're going to burn your soil out. So we try to rotate everything. And what I have here is our handy dandy notebook that we use, which actually lets us plan this garden out every year. And I usually buy a new one every year. Not that I need to, but I have a little bit of OCD when it comes to, I want a nice new notebook every year. But with the notebook, it lets us essentially draw out the garden every year and put some notes down. We can change things. This is all pencil, it's not permanent. And it probably will change. We'll make some different decisions when it comes to actually laying stuff out. Big thing here to remember, at least for us, is that we don't do this very specifically. We leave it very open. I mean, you can see cukes, squash. I'm not listing summer squash, winter squash. This is just extremely broad-based to give us an idea of what's going to go where, so that we know what we need to fit in. If there's something we want to grow that doesn't make it into here, we can put it over here and talk about the other places around the property that we grow. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tour of what you're doing and, you know, maybe give you some ideas for your home garden. The strawberry patch that you see right here, this is the only permanent bed that we have here. It doesn't get rotated, and that's because strawberries come back year after year. It's also the only fruit that we grow back in this garden. We have blueberry bushes on the property, Nanking cherry bushes on the property, which I think we still have the Nanking cherries. They weren't looking so great tail end of last summer, but we'll see if they come back this year. We have peach trees that are in the ground and established and have been doing really well. And we also have 2 new apple trees. You might have noticed, if you're a tomato lover, that I didn't say anything about tomatoes on that last part of the video. And the reason why is we're not growing tomatoes in the garden or the raised bed portion of the garden this year. Over the last couple years, we've had really bad luck with blight on our tomatoes. Blight is a fungal disease that causes your tomatoes toward the, well, late blight, which is what we run into. You know, toward the tail end of the season, it causes your plants to essentially just turn brown, wither, and die. It usually starts at the bottom of the plants and works its way up. If you've raised tomatoes in the past and you've seen this happen to your plants, that is what killed your plants. It was called late blight. It's a bummer, but there's really not much you can do to treat it because it comes from the soil. You can work on it once you find it, and you can, trim the lower branches of your plants, and you can prune really aggressively and treat with, neem oil and things like that. But once you have it, it's there, and it's always going to be there because it's in the soil. And for us, apparently the dirt that we did put in our raised beds, it has it, or at some point has picked it up, because we end up with them every year now. So the change we're going to make is we are raising our tomatoes out here on the deck. When we first got here, and I mentioned that garden in the back wasn't really doing too well, we raised tomatoes in pots out on this deck, and it did really well. It has some pretty solid southern exposure. You can actually see the sun is setting behind me over there. This gets sun all afternoon. It's perfect for tomatoes. It's hot, it's sunny, and we can perfectly control the moisture that is going to be put down on those tomatoes. So come the summertime on this deck, we're going to have probably 15 5-gallon buckets of tomato plants out here, and hopefully we're just going to grow tons of tomatoes. We'll also have some herbs out here. We can put them on the stairs down behind me, and we're looking at maybe doing some corn. Burpee, is it Burpee or Gurney's? One of them has a container-friendly variety of corn. I've never heard of it before. We were browsing through the catalog the other night, and I'm thinking we might pick some up to try it because we've never really had room to do corn out and about in the garden. So this sounds like an appealing plant to try. It'll be an experiment. Who knows if it works, but if it does pan out, it'll be neat to have a few ears of corn that we can say we grew ourselves. Another thing we're going to try this year is to utilize some of this ornamental garden space that we have to grow more food for us. Jackie uses this garden space to grow some really beautiful flowers and really nice plants that add to the appeal of the front of our house. I can't say curb appeal because we're way off the road. She's used that space so far to do that sort of thing. And when we were talking this winter, we really decided that we could still grow some cool looking plants in here, but also have things that provided us with some benefit in the long run. Some of those things we're looking at, there's a lot of small pepper plants, mostly hot peppers, that are cool looking plants in general. They have really bright peppers. A lot of the Thai chilies, they'll grow straight up, which is awesome because we can take those peppers, we can use them in canning, we can use them in fermenting, we can make hot sauce out of them. That's something we're looking at in here. A lot of your chives and herbs will also send off really cool flowers and things like that. So we're looking at using this space to grow some of those items and just test it out, see how it does. So that, my friends, is what we're planning on 2021 here on the homestead as far as a gardening standpoint. Hopefully this video wasn't too boring for you. I know it's kind of a dry topic, walking around in the snow, talking about gardens. I mean, it's January, nobody's thinking gardens, but you should be, because this is the time where you plan to get your best harvest. If you have any questions or want to know more, feel free to leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching, folks, and have a great day. Bye.